Did you know that unforeseen delays caused by authorities and fluctuations in economic costs can significantly impact construction projects? Understanding how FIDIC contracts address these challenges is crucial for both contractors and employers to manage risks effectively. Hi, welcome to Growth Mindset Co. When it comes to construction projects under the FIDIC Yellow Book 2017, unexpected challenges are pretty much part of the journey. Delays caused by public authorities, rising costs that nobody saw coming. These are the kinds of things that can throw project timelines and budgets completely off track. But here's the good news. FIDIC's got you covered. Specifically, we're talking about Clause 8.6, which deals with delays from authorities, and Clause 13.7, which tackles cost adjustments when economic shifts hit hard. Both clauses are designed to help contractors navigate those unpredictable bumps in the road, but they do so in different ways, one focusing on external delays, the other on cost changes. Stick around, and we'll break down exactly how these clauses work and how they can help keep your project on course, even when things don't go as planned. Clause 8.6 offers relief to the contractor when delays or disruptions are caused by actions of public authorities or private utility entities within the country where the project is executed. This clause recognises that despite a contractor's diligent efforts, actions by these entities can hinder progress. Conditions for relief. To benefit from Clause 8.6, the contractor must meet the following conditions. Diligent compliance. The contractor must have complied diligently with all relevant procedures set by the authority or utility entity. Delay or disruption. The actions or inactions of the authority must have caused delays or disruptions to the contractor's work. Unforeseeable delay. The delay must be classified as unforeseeable, meaning it could not have been reasonably predicted at the time of contract signing. Extension of time, EOT. If these conditions are satisfied, the contractor is entitled to an extension of time under Clause 8.5, extension of time for completion. No automatic cost compensation. Clause 8.6 does not inherently grant entitlement to additional payment. However, if the delay also triggers other clauses, such as Clause 13.7 or Clause 20.2, the contractor may claim cost adjustments. Let's delve into the engineer's role when dealing with delays caused by authorities under FIDIC Clause 8.6. Imagine you're a contractor and suddenly your project hits a snag because a public authority or utility company isn't moving as quickly as you'd hoped. Maybe they're taking their time issuing a permit or conducting an inspection. You're facing delays and it's not your fault. So what happens next? This is where the engineer steps in. Think of the engineer as the impartial mediator in your construction contract, a bit like a referee who ensures the game is played fairly. First up, assessment. The engineer's job is to determine whether your delay qualifies under the conditions specified in Clause 8.6. They'll ask, have you been diligent? Did you follow all the procedures required by the authority? Submitted all documents on time? Basically, did you do everything within your power to keep things moving? Is the delay unforeseeable? Could you have predicted this hiccup when you signed the contract? If the delay stems from something unexpected, like a sudden change in regulations, that's a point in your favour. The engineer will pore over all the evidence, your applications, correspondence, and any proof of your compliance. They're piecing together the puzzle to see if the delay truly meets the criteria. Next, approval. If the engineer concludes that yes, you've met all the conditions, they move on to granting an appropriate extension of time. But how do they figure out what's appropriate? They'll analyse how the delay impacts your project schedule. This isn't just a rough guess. They'll look at the critical path, assess how the delay affects various tasks, and calculate the extension you need to get back on track. Once they've determined the extension, they'll formally notify both you and the employer. Clear communication here is key. You need to know the new timelines, and the employer needs assurance that the project is still under control. But the engineer's role doesn't end there. They'll also monitor the project's progress with this new schedule in mind. Their goal is to ensure that you're adhering to the revised plan and that no additional delays creep in without proper justification. Throughout this process, the engineer must remain impartial. They're not siding with you or the employer, they're upholding the contract's terms. Their fair assessment helps prevent disputes and keeps the project moving smoothly. So in a nutshell, when delays caused by authorities threaten your project timeline, the engineer is the one who assesses the situation and, if justified, grants you the extra time you need. They ensure that everyone plays by the rules and that the project stays on course despite the bumps along the way. Isn't it reassuring to know there's a mechanism in place to handle these? Let's dive into Clause 13.7 of the FIDIC contracts, adjustments for changes in cost. Have you ever been in the middle of a construction project when suddenly the cost of materials skyrockets? Maybe the price of steel doubles overnight, or labour costs shoot up due to a shortage of skilled workers. It's a contractor's nightmare, right? So how does FIDIC help you navigate these unexpected economic twists and turns? That's where Clause 13.7 comes into play. This clause is all about adjusting the contract price to reflect significant increases or decreases in the costs of labour, materials, or other inputs required for the works. Think of it as a built-in safety net that helps maintain the financial balance of the contract when the market goes haywire. But how exactly does this adjustment mechanism work? At the heart of Clause 13.7 are cost indexation schedules. When you sign the contract, you and the employer agree on specific indices or schedules that will be used to calculate any cost adjustments. This upfront agreement ensures transparency and fairness. Both parties know how changes in costs will be handled from the get-go. Now, suppose current cost indices aren't available when you need them. Maybe there's a delay in publishing the latest economic data. What happens then? The clause allows for the use of provisional indices. You can use these temporary figures to make necessary adjustments, and once the accurate data becomes available, you recalibrate the adjustments accordingly. It's a practical solution that keeps the project moving without getting bogged down by data delays. Are there any exclusions to be aware of? Absolutely. Adjustments under Clause 13.7 don't apply to work that's already valued on a cost basis or at current prices. So, if a portion of your work is being paid based on the market rates at the time of execution, that part won't be subject to further adjustments. It's important to differentiate between what's adjustable and what's not to avoid any confusion down the line. Now let's talk about time. Specifically, what happens if you exceed the time for completion? If you go beyond the agreed completion date, the adjustments aren't necessarily going to work in your favour. The clause stipulates that adjustments are based on the indices applicable 49 days before the original time for completion expires, or the current index, whichever is more favourable to the employer. In other words, you can't benefit from cost increases that occur due to delays on your part. Why is this significant? It incentivizes you to stick to the schedule. If delays happen and they're your responsibility, the contract protects the employer from bearing additional costs that arise from those delays. It's a fair way to manage risk and keep everyone accountable. So what's the big takeaway from Clause 13.7? It's designed to protect both you and the employer from the unpredictability of the market. By having a clear mechanism to adjust for significant cost changes, you can proceed with greater financial certainty. It helps ensure that neither party is unfairly burdened by economic factors beyond their control. Isn't it comforting to know that there's a structured way to handle these fluctuations? Understanding Clause 13.7 means you're better equipped to manage your project's finances, even when the market throws you a curveball. It's all about maintaining balance and fairness throughout the life of the contract. Does that help clarify how FIDIC addresses adjustments for changes in cost? Financial adjustments. The contractor may receive increased payment, or, in cases of cost decreases, the employer may benefit from reduced payments. No extension of time. Clause 13.7 does not provide for extensions of time. It strictly pertains to financial adjustments. Let's explore how Clause 8.6 and Clause 13.7 of the FIDIC Yellow Book 2017 are surprisingly similar, even though they address different challenges in a construction project. First off, have you ever noticed how external factors can throw a wrench into even the best-laid construction plans? Both Clause 8.6 and Clause 13.7 acknowledge this reality. They recognise that sometimes things happen beyond the contractor's control, be it delays caused by authorities or unexpected fluctuations in costs. These clauses are like safety nets, ensuring that when unforeseen events occur, the contractor isn't left hanging out to dry. So how do these clauses address these external impacts? They provide mechanisms for relief. Clause 8.6 offers an extension of time when delays are caused by authorities, while Clause 13.7 allows for adjustments in the contract price when there are significant changes in costs. In essence, they prevent either party, the contractor or the employer, from bearing undue risk due to factors they couldn't predict or control. Now let's talk about the unsung hero in these situations, the engineer. In both clauses, the engineer plays a crucial role. Think of the engineer as the gatekeeper who assesses the situation and determines if the contractor is entitled to relief. For Clause 8.6, the engineer evaluates whether the delay caused by authorities is valid. Did the contractor diligently follow all procedures? Was the delay truly unforeseeable? If so, the engineer approves an extension of time. For Clause 13.7, the engineer verifies the accuracy of cost adjustments. They check the agreed indices and calculations to ensure that any changes in the contract price are justified based on the fluctuations in costs. Their impartial assessment helps maintain fairness and balance in the contract, ensuring neither side takes advantage of the situation. But here's the catch. Entitlements under both clauses aren't automatic, they're conditional. With Clause 8.6, the contractor must have diligently complied with all relevant procedures, and the delay must be unforeseeable. It's not enough to simply experience a delay. The contractor needs to show they did everything right and still got held up. For Clause 13.7, adjustments for changes in cost apply only if cost indexation schedules are included in the contract. If those schedules aren't there, the contractor can't claim adjustments under this clause. So, what's the takeaway here? Both clauses are designed to address the challenges posed by external factors. They ensure that when the unexpected happens, there's a fair and structured way to handle it. The engineer's role is pivotal in both, acting as an impartial arbiter who ensures that the contractual provisions are applied correctly. Understanding these similarities helps both contractors and employers navigate the complexities of a construction project with greater confidence. It highlights the importance of thorough contract preparation and diligent adherence to procedures. Isn't it fascinating how these clauses, while dealing with different issues, time and cost, mirror each other in structure and purpose? They truly embody FIDIC's balanced approach to risk sharing in construction contracts. Let's explore the key differences between Clause 8.6 and Clause 13.7 of the FIDIC Yellow Book 2017. First, the nature of relief each clause provides. Clause 8.6 is all about time. Imagine you're a contractor facing delays because a public authority or utility isn't moving as quickly as needed. Perhaps they're slow in issuing permits or approvals. If you've diligently followed all required procedures but still encounter delays, Clause 8.6 grants you an extension of time. It's focused on adjusting your project schedule to account for these unforeseen delays caused by external entities. In contrast, Clause 13.7 deals with money. Suppose the cost of materials or labour suddenly spikes due to market fluctuations or economic conditions. Clause 13.7 allows for financial adjustments to the contract price, helping you mitigate the impact of these unexpected cost changes on your project's budget. Next, what triggers each clause? For Clause 8.66, the trigger is delays specifically caused by the actions or inactions of public authorities or utility entities. It's about external administrative delays impacting your project's timeline. On the other hand, Clause 13.7 is triggered by changes in the costs of labour, materials, or other inputs due to market fluctuations or broader economic shifts. It's not tied to any party's actions, but to economic factors affecting project costs. Now, your responsibilities under each clause. Under Clause 8.6, you have a compliance requirement. You must have diligently followed all relevant procedures and requirements set by the authorities. This means submitting all necessary documents on time and doing everything within your control to prevent delays. With Clause 13.7, there's no additional procedural burden beyond standard contract provisions. Adjustments are made based on external economic factors, and you aren't required to take extra steps to mitigate these changes. Finally, how do these clauses apply if you exceed the time for completion? Clause 13.7 explicitly outlines how cost adjustments are handled if the project goes beyond the agreed completion date, often favouring the employer. If you're running late, the financial adjustments for cost changes might not work in your favour. In contrast, Clause 8.6 doesn't provide specific provisions regarding adjustments or limitations beyond the time for completion. It focuses on granting extensions due to delays by authorities, but doesn't detail what happens if those delays push the project past the... Have you encountered delays caused by authorities or significant changes in costs on your projects? Share your experiences and how you manage them under FIDIC contracts in the comments below. For more insights on navigating construction contracts and managing risks, explore our other articles and resources.